Bankai.
Hello there, great person, and welcome to this discussion theory video about Shutara Senjumaru's Bankai that we just witnessed in all its glory for the first time in Bleach Thousand Year Blood War episode 26. And it blew my mind, I bet it blew your mind. But now the question is in the room, what did it do? Like, what was it about? And I want to take this occasion to discuss that with you and give you some theories and some backgrounds, perhaps to the mythology that it's based on. And I might do more videos like this. I'm currently thinking of doing a series of ideas behind X, like ideas behind Senjumaru's Bankai. Or I also might do ideas behind Asnod's Sphere, which I could do with some psychological background information to give you. Like, I want to give you some extra stuff that is perhaps what things are based on in Bleach. And also perhaps beyond Bleach, if it's something that you are interested in. Because I really loved reading into the mythology that is behind the Bankai. It was a lot of fun. And I was also asked to do some science videos, like where I analyze the science of Bleach, like the Rukia's Shikai or Yamamoto's Bankai or the lethal dosage of death dealing, stuff like that. And I thought, yeah, that would be cool, but I wanted to expand that idea a bit. So here we are. Today we're going to talk about Senjumaru Shutara's Bankai, and we will see what it possibly does. And as is the case, of course, this is speculative in nature and parts, and there will also be some major spoilers for the Core 3 and 4, possibly. I will mark them down on the timestamps, but they will especially come into play when we discuss the eventual fates of certain characters, and we will focus on one fight in particular a lot in the end that I don't want to spoil to you. So please make sure that like there will be hopefully a spoiler warning on the screen, but also down there so you don't get spoiled. So the rest of the video will be without spoilers for future content, but there will be, I think, 2 or 3 points where I just have to get into it because there's some very, very cool stuff to discuss here. So, without further ado, let's get into the discussion about Shutara Senjumaru's Bankai. And yes, if you like this, of course, consider liking, subscribing, and comment on what you thought, what your hypotheses are in this, and what your theories are. And let's just have some fun with this.
ゼロ番隊第4巻北方新章大折り紙したら千住丸じゃ
So the first thing we should start off with is, I think, Shutara Senjumaru as a character, because I think it is very important to understand her as a character, to understand what the Bankai does, what it is about, and what it means. Because to me, what I love about Bleach the most is it's basically not that there are characters and they have powers, and those powers might mean something, but no, I think it's more close to Kubo thinks of ideas and tries to put them into characters and lets these ideas battle through characters. Like it's the other way around, to me at least. And I know that might be an opinion you might not share, but that is how I see it. So for me, it is very, very important to understand the ideas that are behind the characters, to really understand what their techniques do, what they are about, what they mean, and where they are drawn from. And that is why we will look at Shutara's design first. So she is like a very good-looking slender woman, and of course, the most striking thing about her are her golden arms, her 6 golden arms that are like puppet arms, and also her golden halo. And where this probably comes from and is inspired from is from Buddhist mythology. I've read up a bit on that, and as always, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but it seems to so her whole character and design and abilities are seem to be based on the Senju Kannon, which is like a deity in Buddhism, and it is a, and I wrote it down, Botsuatwa or something like that. I don't know if I probably butchered that, but it's basically a deity, so some person who has in Buddhism already gone into a stage of enlightenment, but still postpones like transcendence to save other people. And one of these deities is the so-called Senju Kannon. The Senju Kannon is a sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, apparently, and it is a thing depicted with 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes in those arms. But the interesting thing, of course, is the 1,000 arms that this person was gifted, or this deity was gifted, because this person wanted to alleviate the suffering of the people, of the masses, and because her 2 arms, I will just call her because Senjumaru is a her, so it is a bit easier for me as a not native speaker. So her thing was like she wanted to save people, and her arms couldn't do it anymore. She broke, and so she was gifted 1,000 arms to alleviate the suffering of 1,000 people. And she sometimes wore a cloth with her where she could heal people with, which also, like, she does that with Oetsu when he's getting pierced by X-axis. So that also fits. And of course, her golden halo is the same as Shutara has. So Shutara's golden halo on the back of her head is based on the halo that the Kannon has. And also her 1,000 golden arms are also very reminiscent of this Kannon thing. And this Kannon is also someone who protects the Pure Land in a palace. And I mean, Shutara also has a palace and protects something pure, which is the Soul King. So there are many, many parallels, and she's obviously, I think, drawn from that Senju Kannon. And yeah, that's basically what I think where the primary idea of her is from. Like, she's got 1,000 arms to do 1,000 things and help people and guide them through life, but also through death, which will be very, very important when we get to the Bankai.
悪い癖は誰しもあるもの。敵とはより近く。
Yes, so her Shikai. Her Shikai is, of course, Shiragami, as we now know with the better Bankai translations, and the Shikai was used against Gerard. So it is this needle, perhaps. I will get to that in a moment. So the first thing I think is what we definitely know is it's the needle. So there's this needle she has, and it's actually an acupuncture needle because Shiragami means acupuncture needle apparently as well. So the acupuncture needle she uses, like, she can like pierce stuff and like derail probably flow of chakra, aura, or whatever. And she uses that against Gerard, and Gerard is like, no, you can't pierce my heart with that. So he deflects that attack, but it's like an acupuncture attack, which is, I think, the most closely to Shiragami as it is in like normal culture. Shiragamis are used for that, so I guess that's most closely linked to that. But she also has those golden arms that I personally think that is also her Shikai. And there are several reasons for why I think that, but it doesn't have to be. We are not sure about that, but it can be. We are just sure that it's at least the needle, but I think it's also the arms, because the arms are always used when she does techniques. I mean, naturally, because she uses them for sewing stuff, but they are used. And what I also thought very interesting is when she activates her Bankai and has her full Ryatsu after the Blood Oath Seal breaks, so basically does not limit her anymore, so she can go full power, and she, of course, shakes the 3 realms, which we saw, but that makes me think back to the fight between Ichigo and Aizen when they were pretty powerful, and they were also, like, their Ryatsu was also, like, it was described as transcendent. I will not go into the transcendent debate here because it's cluster frick, and, like, that is probably its own video, and we still would get not, we wouldn't get to an answer that is sufficient for anything, so let's not go there. But in that fight, they were pretty powerful, let's say it like that. Their Ryatsu was extremely strong, and what Aizen realized is that Mugetsu had the Zanpakuto fused to the arm in a way. So Ichigo's Bankai sword, like the Mugetsu Tensei Zangetsu sword, was like linked to Ichigo with the chain. And Aizen's Kyoka also was linked to his body, like it was like it got absorbed by him even in the end. So in the end, Kyoka became one with Aizen in a way, so he can just put it out and put it back now, I guess. Um, and so that reminded me of that as well, because I think it's probably that Shutara Zanpakuto is so evolved that it is part of her. And it is the needle, yes, but it's probably also the arms. I don't know if she's got real arms. Perhaps she has, perhaps she hasn't. Um, but yeah, also the second part why I think the arms are part of her Shikai is that in her Bankai activation, the arms form these Buddhistic symbols. And normally the sword, you put the sword in a pose like Yin does the weird pulling it down. Yamamoto holds it to the side. Unohana like slits her hand to activate Bankai. You know, everyone has a pose when they strike when they activate Bankai, and they hold their Zanpakuto in a certain way. And Shutara does not have her needle in those scenes. She holds the arms in a certain way. You know, so for me, it is not confirmed in no way. We don't know, but I think it's based on what we saw. It's most likely that the arms and the needle are her Zanpakuto. And the arms are probably, and this is perhaps a bit fan headcanon on my part here, tell me if you agree or not, but I think her arms are her Zanpakuto fused to her body because she's so strong and because she's also a transcendent being. And transcendent is like only very loosely loosed here by me. Like, don't nail me on this and be like, yeah, but transcendence is this level and they couldn't feel. And, you know, I get the discussions. Let's not go into that. But that's basically what her Shikai is, I think. And what it does is, of course, it uses strings. It uses strings to construct things. And she mainly seems to construct spells or charms, like these Japanese Chinese charms that you have on paper. You like write something on them, something like that. It is similar to that, I feel. So she engraves clothing with her Shikai, or she creates new clothes with her Shikai that have properties like it can absorb and reflect the Lichtregen. It can probably like create needles. This needle spell that she used to kill Nyanzol with, and she also uses the acupuncture, though that was probably just a basic attack. Um, what is also interesting is that this string or thread she uses is probably symbolizing the thread of fate. So this already starts her theme as this weaver of fate that she is. So she is the grand weaver, we know that, but she's also the weaver of fate, and we will get into that when we go to the Bankai in the moment. But I just wanted to add that this is a very, very deep image that is in many cultures, that there are, mostly it's three women, like it's the Moira in Greek mythology, it's the Uror in Norse mythology. There are many cultures that have these three women that are associated with fate, and one is mostly for the future. And in Greek mythology, at least, I couldn't find the others. In Greek mythology, the string is the life thread that like is thread into a pattern. A bit like Wheel of Time, by the way. In Wheel of Time, that's the same thing. Like you are a string in the Wheel of Time. It's a fantasy series I love. Getting into currently as well. So the string of fate that is woven into the pattern of the world. That is the imagery in Wheel of Time. So Wheel of Time is this weaving wheel. Like that's why it's the Wheel of Time. It's a weaving wheel. It weaves the fate of the world, so to speak. And the strings are the people. And this is exactly the same imagery again. And I just love it. So she uses the string of fate, I think, to create these little spells to start changing fate a little, or to perhaps give more agency to things. I think that is actually something that is very central to her. And this is, of course, abstractly spoken, like giving agency. So she gives her umbrella that she creates from her Zanpakuto the ability to repel something. She gives the clothes the ability to withstand more stuff. You know, like this creation of something more they can do, of freeing their abilities up, so to speak. I don't know if that was correct term. But that is basically what her Shikai does. And that is also important because, of course, the Bankai is an extension of the Shikai as always. And now we finally get to the Bankai. I've let you wait long enough, so now we get to
Bankai. Shatatsu karagara shigarami no tsuji.
So this Bankai is a mouthful, as it is for all strong and ancient Bankais, save for Sanka no Tachi, but Yamamoto has... No, wait, that's actually, now I realize that both Yamamoto and Ichibe have very short Bankais, like shortish. But yeah, so the Bankai is activated, of course, by the Blood Oath seal breaking, which is not essential to the Bankai itself, but it gives Shutara access to her full Raiatsu and to her full abilities and her full Zanpakuto powers, and especially her Bankai. Her Bankai, of course, shakes the three worlds. So it is probably not only the Bankai, but also the Raiatsu that is released when she uses it, but it's also probably the Bankai itself because it can rewrite the fate of the universe. Like, that's one of its skills, and or that's the central skill, I think, basically, if you would shorten it to a one sentence. It is more, I think, and we will get into that, but it's basically rewriting fate in that moment. So that's why the worlds are shaking. But also because of the Raiatsu, because Shutara is pretty awesome, and yeah. So, what does the Bankai then do? Like, there is this, so it's activated, and suddenly behind Shutara there is this giant torii gate that appears, like this giant Japanese gate that's also here in the background. Like it appears, and she says Bankai, and then the torii gate transforms into this giant loom, and there's this big cloth thing that comes down, paves the way like the red carpet, and there are many things and like carpets going off to the sides, and making it like a giant set of crossroads, which is also very important, I think, for the Bankai. Like, that's one of the central things. And then, of course, her activation is complete. The Bankai is like up there in this sub-dimension or sub-world where there's this giant loom, and that is weaving these crossroads from this torii gate, and it is then used to create several little rooms or scenarios or whatever you want to call them, and in those scenarios the opponents are placed in. And now we will get to the scenarios, so I will first just describe what they do, just to recap it a bit. So basically, first we have Lile, he's in a mirror room, he shoots himself. Then we have Asken, he's just like, what the frick is this even? His feet are pierced by metal spikes. Then Shutara images morph into these Iron Maiden-like spikes and crash in on her. Then Pernida is swallowed by black sand. Gerard is frozen. Hashwat is burned to death, and Uryu is... Yeah, that's the point. I don't know what he is. We just see him sink to the ground, and I will get to that because I think that's central and important to how he will actually get out of this, because I think he will. And that's gonna be something we will discuss in the end as well. So anyway, these scenarios are created, and the people in them are harmed, or in Ishida's case, we don't really know, but they're at least all appear to be somehow harmed. And then she releases the Bankai, or she doesn't release it, like she releases or finishes the attack, and the scenarios they were like placed into are becoming cloths behind Shutara. Like, we've got 6 cloths for the 6 scenarios. And also pretty interesting is that the rooms are woven from the cloth as well. Like the room where Pernida is in, you see it best, I think. Like like there are many black pieces of cloth, and they turn into the sand. So that is what we see. And she's got the poems with them, and they hear the poems, which is also, I think, important. And that is what we see. So now the next part that is going to come now is all speculation, and it doesn't have to be like this. So please tell me again in the comments, what did you think of these sequences? But first we will start with the name. Shatatsu Karagara Shigarami no Tsuji is of course written in kanji, and I want to shout out a Reddit user for this. Reddit user called Saturn Eclipse. He did a brilliant post analyzing the kanji and what they mean and what they might mean in the story. I will briefly give you the gist here, and if you're interested in it, please read his post. It's brilliant. I will link it down below, of course. And he basically said that yes, there is like a translation to these kanji, but they can also be seen as like several words also telling a little story. And he translated that, and that one is the one I'm very interested about. So if we translate the name with it's the story, the Bankai translates to something like crossing into the Buddhist world, only skeletons will remain in death. The sewing needle constructs the crossroads of life and death, which is basically what it does. And this user points out that many Bankai have this. I have not seen it for other Bankais. I hope he will do more posts where he explains the other Bankais in this kind of analyzed language. But I just loved this take. And he also pointed towards two things that I already mentioned, though. So those were originally his thoughts. Again, check out the post, it's brilliant. So first is the Tori gate that appears when she activates the Bankai. So the Tori gate is, I think in Buddhist mythology, like a gate between life and death. So we start the scenario of the Bankai with, this is a life and death thing. We will deal with this topic now. So it's a hint to everyone who gets caught up in that, every poor sod. Then we have these crossroads, and I think that is the central part that I have not been seen mentioned a lot. Because what I think, and I think the posts I just talked about thought something similar, but I'm not sure if they meant the same. But for me, what I got from all of this was what the Bankai does is Shutara creates a scenario for the people in the Bankai where she will put them into situations that could kill them, and they have to choose to do something they wouldn't normally do, or that is against their core character. And if they don't choose to not adhere to their true character here, they will die. And I will go into the stages right now in a moment, so we can go through them, and I will explain what I mean on the stages. But basically, she creates a scenario that will kill you, and if you choose against your true, against what you would normally do, against your flaws, what your flaws would want you to do, like you can be saved from the Bankai, I think. And I think that also is for Uryu an important point here. And we will get to that when we go to the Uryu stage. So basically, she takes the cloth, she weaves a scenario from it. The scenario is a life and death scenario. She gives the chant, which is probably a hint. We can discuss that. I found like several hints in it for some of the people in the scenarios, but tell me what you thought, of course, again. But so we are in these scenarios. They are woven. They have the challenge. They get the poem that is a hint to what will happen, and they have to choose against their true flaws, and then they might get out. Otherwise, they will die, and their death will be in the future should they get out of the Bankai as well. So their deaths are determined by their choice here. And they are directly determined in the Bankai, but should the Bankai be undone because the Bankai rewrites the universe, the fate of the universe, of the three worlds, it will also still happen. So that is basically what it does, I think. I think no one will probably argue me on it will determine their deaths. Like I think the community, as far as I've seen, we all agree on that one. But what we don't agree on, I think, is the choice part. And that is only from like this crossroads symbolism that we have in the loom and in the name. So I guess it makes sense though, and it reminds me a lot of Supernatural as well, the crossroad demons. And Yes, so I think that's basically the general point of the Bankai, but now we will get into the 6 scenarios we saw, and we will get through them, and I will describe the scenario, the death, and the choice they perhaps could have made to avoid the death, I think. So it's just some speculation here. So, but the first 2 things I think are pretty certain what it means. Um, so first, oh yeah, and there will be spoilers here, some major spoilers, I think. So I will now, because we go to deaths, there will be major spoilers now for Court 3 and 4. So be warned. Okay? Be warned. Spoilers. Spoilers. So anyway, I think you got that point. So first we've got Lige or Lile. So he's got this scenario called Abundant Blooming of Eyes, which is also pretty interesting because the Kannon Senju that Shutara is based on also has like the 1,000 eyes in the palms of her hand. But also Lily's eyes are pretty important because as we later learn, again, spoilers, you've been warned. If you're still here, I'm sorry. Not my fault then. So we know that Lily's eyes hold his powers. Like when he opens his eyes and sees the truth of the world, like figuratively speaking, at least that's what you would say in Christian mythology. Like he opens the eyes and sees the truth of the world. He can activate his true Vollständig, which is still Giliel, but that one is like even more broken than whatever he did in the fight in 26. So if he opens his eyes to see the truth, he will become angelic and transcendent and this weird old man, our man in the end, you know. So the poem he gets here in this mirror room is the eyes be crushed of those who stare back. So on the mirrors then appear the other eyes that Shutara has, and Shutara is also in the mirror. And what Lily does is, of course, he just takes his gun, shoots the mirrors all he can, and that is I think that is the choice that he shouldn't have done. Like he should have just stayed there. Like it was just mirrors. But his character is, and I talked about that in my episode reactions. His character is exactly this. I'm the best. No one can beat me. I can just shoot you down, and we will see it later again. Like I'm untouchable. I'm immortal. I'm the strongest Sternritter. I'm so good. Like he's got this. I cannot be harmed. It's not possible. I can just shoot you. You can't do anything. Like he has got this mindset, and that is his flaw. And in the end, that will be his downfall as well, because he just shoots Shunsu in Nanao when she's got Hyokaso. No, what is it called? The sword, the plot Kai sword. You know the plot Kai sword. Like he just shoots it, doesn't care. And here as well, he just gives into this, I'm better, you can't touch me, I will just kill you now, whatever you're doing, your techniques mean nothing. Like he disregards the techniques of the enemy completely because he thinks he's above them, he just shoots the mirrors, and then he's like, they are reflected back on him, and his eyes are crushed, and he's like down. So I think the poem means something as well. The eyes be crushed of those who stare back. Like this might be a bit metaphorical. And again, please tell me if you perhaps have another interpretation of it. But it basically means like, yeah, if you stare, like if you attack with your eyes, um, you will die. Like you will be like if you attack, you'll be reflected back and you die. Which is in the end what happens when oh no, I think it's Shiken Hakyoken, isn't it? The god sword? Anyway. So that's how he dies in the end. So that was Lily. And then we've got Asken. Asken was very hard, I think, to find what he should have done. But Asken's stage is Blade of Steel. It's tapestry where Shutara silhouettes are on, and then suddenly the ground becomes covered with metal spikes. They dig into Asken's feet, holding him in place, and then the silhouettes come down, crushing him like the Iron Maiden, as I discussed. And the poem she says here is, "And you, unable to bear its weight, are forever sealed." So unable to bear its weight. I think, and this this is very debatable, I think. So please, if you have better ideas, this is the one I was very unsure about. The others I was pretty sure about. This is the one I'm unsure about. But I think it is his choice was get out of there. Like he was just pierced in the feet. And he had to overcome this coward passive nature he has, because that's what he always shows in fights. Like he's a good fighter if he wants, like, and he lures people into traps, but he's got this passiveness always. Like he starts fights with passiveness. He goes away from Mayuri. He goes away from Tanjiro. He goes away from Grimjo. He runs away from it. Like he just runs away, and like he's passive AF to try to bait people into the attack on the long run. So he's like in a way passive, not in like, you know, and here he's also like he's the only one that just stands there like, what the hell is going on? Better wait, better see what's happening, because you know I've got death dealing, I can survive almost everything. I will just wait and see. No, act. This is where he should have acted. He should have just gotten out of the, because it's just a little contraption. Like there were like gaps between the Iron Maiden figures, like the Spike figures. There were gaps there. He should have just like just ran away. Like, but it's, you know, it's iffy, because it's the problem I have with this interpretation as well, as he ran away all the time. I don't know. Perhaps it's also just his cowardice. But please tell me what you think of this. And in the end, he's crushed by spikes, which is of course how he dies in the end if they don't change it. So in the end, he's like pierced by Grimjo, like with the spike, and he's crushed by Giftball, which is like the area he created. He's just crushed by that in the end. So that's very, very cool. Pernida. So we are now the third stage or hang or whatever of the Bankai. Pernida's basically in a room that is created out of black cloth, and the poem is, pulled in by those hands, you meet your end. So I guess the choice here was either being passive or active. And as Pernida's true nature, like, basically demands Pernida to be completely active, Pernida uses compulsory immediately. It gets splattered away, and the sand eats it up. You know, he should have, like, Pernida should have just been still, but it can't do that because it's not Mimihagi, it's Pernida. So, you know, that's its thing. It doesn't stand still. So I think Pernida was the easiest kill for her here, because Pernida wasn't going to wait. Pernida was just going to use the compulsory here and, like, just try to rip it apart, and it couldn't because it's sand. You can't, like, whatever you're going to do. And Pernida in the end was swallowed whole by like this mass of sand. And I mean, in the end, that's exactly what happens as well. Pernida is killed by itself. And I mean, Shutara even says pulled in by those hands. So that's how Pernida dies. It like grows, like, it's basically, it dies by cancer. So I mean, yeah, that was unfortunate. Best fight in the series, so can't wait for it. And that's how Pernida chose unwisely. And that also, that now it also makes so much sense why we saw the compulsory veins shortly like flare up and like disintegrate, because I think that was the choice. But I don't know. Gerard, freezing bed linens, and the poem is succumb to their slumber and never stir again. And I think this as well was similar with Pernida, because Gerard immediately takes the cloth. Like, he's like, nope, not gonna do that. And by taking the cloth, it wraps around him more, and he's frozen and sealed forever. I think he should have just like wiggled out of it, perhaps. But I'm also a bit unsure on that. But I'm pretty sure he shouldn't have just like, because that's also his character. He always goes in. Like, he's the first one to go in and tries to kill Shutara in their first encounter. He's the first one to goes into try to attack Askin. He's like this brew that always goes in, and I think that's the choice he shouldn't have made, and his flaw, like, in battle, and that's why he is in the end he's probably killed by the tech team. I think he's like, Kenpachi will weaken him with Bankai, then Toshiro will freeze him with Bankai, and then Byakuya will just shatter the heart of the Soul King with his Bankai. And I think that's gonna be it for Gerard in the anime. Haschwald. Haschwald is very cool. Haschwald was a lot of fun to think about because Haschwald is there's a lot of subtext there, I think. Haschwald is put into a burning field, and it's basically a room made of tapestry, and it just starts burning. And the poem is, "Until you burn to ash, there is no escape." And I think that's like so on the nose. Like he should have just been like, "Okay, let me burn to death," because like it says, "Until you burn to death, there is no escape." I think that's a word play. Um, and he can't do that because that's also his character. And this again, I mean, you were already here. You've seen or heard like spoilers abundant. So, but this one as well, like Harshwald and fire is such an important thing. Harshwald hates fire and also loves fire, because the fire was what killed his uncle that assaulted him in the way you don't assault a child. Like the fire is something he couldn't let go of. He fights the fire. That's why he also like he's so apathic when he joins the Wandenreich. Like he's like, yeah, let's just go with them. It's fine. It's gonna be better than the fire. And I think this is also about him not confronting his past because he's running away from his past and he's eating it up inside him, like the harassment he had from his uncle. And I think he should have just like confronted it here, like not literally confronted it, not fight it, like fight it away, but like let it wash over him, and then I think he would have been spared. As for his death in the anime, I'm currently thinking that he will die against Busby. I don't know if the Uyu fight will even happen because let's be clear, Uyu will use antithesis next episode, and he will get out of the and he will revert the others. I don't think he will get out of the Bankai by that, by the way. I just think he will revert the fates of the other people, which is also important to do because that sets him up as being able to counter fate. And I also think this is perhaps a bit of a tangent. I also think that he will, in the end, restore Ichigo's Bankai with antithesis. And it's not going to be Tsukishima. I do think, though, that Tsukishima and the others will get more spotlight. I hope they will. I love the Fullbringers. But anyway, so that's how Haschwald will probably die against fire. And the last one, Uyu, Star of the Dark Night. The poem he gets is absorbed by its abyss and led into the afterlife. And I think this is the point where he has to choose between Yuwak and the Shinigami. I don't know if it is. Perhaps he already has decided, and Shutara just wanted to give him that choice because she thought he would never agree to let go of the Wandenreich. But because Uryu, as we know, I think it's still a thing that he's an undercover agent for us. So he's still on our side. So I think Shutara didn't realize that, or she did, and that's why she put him into the choice. And if he chose the Licht, I'm so sorry, the light. If he chooses the light side, like the Shinigami side, even though they're not light, like they're also pretty evil, but what can you do? So if he chooses Shinigami, he will live. And the abyss is of course Yuwak and his powers, because he's this abyss of absorbing powers, I think. So so he has to choose of not being with Yuwak. And we see him fall down in the end, and the star, Quincy star there, and she's basically saying, are you a Quincy or are you with the Shinigami? And I think he here decided to be with the Shinigami. Led into the afterlife could, but also it could mean you will join the Shinigami. Perhaps that's a hint she gave him here. And I think how it's gonna go out is that Uryu will do the right choice, because I think everything inside him probably urges him to go to the Wandenreich, but he will probably, because of his friends or whatever, he will choose to stay with them, and that is why he is not killed by the Hanks in the Bankai, and that is how he can then use Vollständig and use antithesis to like cancel the Bankai out, cancel the fate of the Bankai. At least like the current fate, not the ultimate fate. And of course, he will not die because he's not dying here. So he still has that left in front of him. So that's basically what I thought about the scenarios and how I would have addressed the choice part of the Bankai. I don't know if that's a thing. It was just fun to think about. It would fit in most cases. I'm a bit shaky on Ask and I'm a bit shaky on Gerard, but for the others, I think it fit perfectly. Again, what do you think? I also like that, yes, she weaves the fate of the universe with the Bankai, but you still have a choice. It's just a choice probably between 1 and 0, like between 2 actions, but you still get a choice. It's not absolute. Because otherwise, it would be too powerful, and every Bankai has a weakness. And if this hypothesis is correct, then that would be the weakness of the Bankai. Because if you choose your ways, or if you address your flaws, you can get out, and your fate will not be sealed by your flaws in the future. I like that thought. I like that a lot. Might be. Perhaps it's not that, but now you saw what I thought of this, and of course it makes free will still play a bit of a part. There is fate, and fate is predetermined, but in that predetermination, you still have agency somewhat. And yes, this is reaching, but it also fits a bit with her Shikai, because her Shikai can like gives more agency to the cloth she weaves in, so to speak. So her Bankai would fit. It would fit. She could also give like still take the agency of people, and they could save themselves from the fate their flaws will bring them to. I really love that. Perhaps it's wrong, but yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is something that I also really, really found interesting. And this is again a spoiler for probably Core 4 or Core 3, Urahara Kizuke. So you are warned again. Urahara's Bankai and her Bankai, they were so similar. But Urahara seems to be a downgraded version of her Bankai. And I think that Urahara and her are somehow related. Perhaps not by blood, but by thematic things. First, both are referencing to Kannon. Like Urahara's Bankai directly has it in the name, Kannon Biraki Beneime Aratame. That is directly in there. Again, Buddhism. And then they have both these themes of puppeteering and strings. Urahara can, with his Bankai, like he's got the sewing stitches, again sewing, and also the Bankai entity that Urahara summons, like the Benihime puppet, also has the arms like Senjumaru's arms are. So there's a lot in common. And it's basically Shutara has this kind of mystic weaving of fate thing, like it's this mystic thing. Urahara has this more scientific engineering thing, like he can restructure everything he touches, and his Shikai. So I think it's not confirmed, but the way I see it is Urahara's Shikai is restructuring Raishi as he wants to, like energy attacks, so to speak, and Raishi, and his Bankai is restructuring everything he touches or it touches. And again, it's like this surgical stuff that Urahara does. Like he uses stitching as in surgical stuff. Senjumaru has that aspect as well with the cloth used for healing, but it's not as surgical. So I really like that as well. And I guess Urahara's Bankai would deserve a video on its own and him and his things, but we don't know enough, so I can't make that yet. Anyway, so this was, I think, all I had to say. Of course, perhaps again, similarities like Shikai Bankai. The Shikai has to do with strings, and the Bankai with cloth. Like, again, an upgrade there as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please, for the love of God, tell me what you thought about this, because I want to hear that. And please make sure to check out the Reddit post I talked about. There's a lot more with the names, and it's a very good post, and I love it. And I really was like, yeah, I think you were onto something. And I tried to spin those ideas into this video as well. So I hope you enjoyed this a bit. If you did, consider liking, subscribing, commenting, of course. Like that's the most important thing. Comment, please, on what you thought. I want to hear your thoughts. I loved the Bankai. It was so majestic, pristine, so many ideas. and I just love what it could mean. And yeah, with that, I say, tell me what perhaps other things you would like in this series. This ideas of like I would do Asnot next. Fear, what is fear, primal fear, and stuff from psychology. So I will give you more background there. But just tell me what you thought. And yes, so with that, I say goodbye, good sir, good madam, and have a great, great, great day as always. So see you soon in the next video, perhaps. And also, check out my Spooktober specials. I will release some special videos, spooky stuff, and they're on the channel. Please check them out.